Paul, what do you think, man? Been a minute. What do you think about all this?
Yeah,
Jump in here.
so I just want to say too, where I live, I haven't seen anything in the past 5 years, which is another indication too that, to Parsi's point, that it seems like there's some type of, like vibrational, like frequency or something, whatever you want to call it, right? That's like ramping up. Um, the
For a
first,
reveal
ex
of sorts. Is that what it?
maybe,
I'm not
possibly,
understand.
right?
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't.
possibly. So, the first sighting I ever had was about 15 years ago, and this was midday. So I'm gonna just try to tell the story very quickly, just so that you can kind of like see where I'm going with it. But
Sure.
um, so I was driving home with my aunt. I was in the passenger side, uh, and again, I live in Texas, so out to my right hand side, I was looking out, and bunch of fields, typical rural Texas road, and I see what I thought was a bug at first, and I kind of take a little more of a double look at it, and I see a metallic orb, uh, like floating about maybe 3 or 4 miles out. You can kind of see it in the sky, and I was like, jokingly, I told my aunt, I was like, "Hey, like that looks like a UFO." And then she kind of stares at it too. We lock eyes on it for maybe like 3 or 4 seconds, and then we just see it go zip, and we both like reacted hysterically, like whoa, like it was
Wow.
crazy, and that was like pretty much
Wow.
the last time I had ever seen anything. And then until like 2 weeks ago, this started happening, and I wouldn't consider myself like an experiencer, maybe like Parsi, who's a lifelong experiencer, or Christian, but I do find it strange that I've been here for 5 years and I just started seeing this. I've always been a person to just go outside and just look out at the stars and kind of just, either enjoy some tea or maybe an adult beverage or something.
Sure.
And yeah, I had never seen anything until recently. And just again to Parsi and Christian's point, I just think that something's like ramping up, and I just find it fascinating, which is another reason why why I reached out to you, because I think disclosure is happening on the personal level for a lot of people, um, and there's this like personal disclosure versus government disclosure thing that's going on.
Yeah.
And I think it's just like we're kind of already there, and it just depends on how you want to look at it. But yeah, that's pretty much what I think about what's happening right now.
No, I love that. Christian, I'm going to throw a question at you, man, and bring you into this again. Um, so okay, personal disclosure versus government disclosure. I totally agree with you, Paul. I've said that on Vetted too. Like and I'm happy people take it in their own hands. If I'm being honest, because you're only going to get frustrated trying to follow the government and what's happening, right? Like if that's what you're waiting for, forget it. That's a lost cause. So personal disclosure, and I love that. What do you say, Christian? Like for people that don't have a personal experience like myself, can't see orbs, don't have any experiences, how do we get that disclosure? Right. Because I would say, okay, you have your experiences and you're totally cool and you're sharing them and you're open and you even have video and this and you guys are all here. But should people like myself just go, oh, okay, that's my personal disclosure? Or do you think it's fair for people to wait for either that experience or just that smoking gun that would really lean them over? Does that make sense what I'm saying? Like what do we how do I navigate this?
Right, absolutely. And that's a great question. My personal belief is I think that we're all experiencers. I think we've all experienced the phenomena on some sort of level, maybe like a high strangeness dream, um, seeing a light in the sky that you can't understand, synchronicities, deja vu, things of that nature. I think that we're all and that's why I think, Parsi and Paul make a great point about this being has to do with the consciousness. I think it has to do with a kind of a global consciousness. I think that uh, when we're children, we kind of have this open mind, you know what I mean? We have this kind of childlike state that we exist in where anything's really possible. And then
Yeah.
kind of like the system that is the world puts a box on that.
Yeah.
I myself, I'm a musician, so is Paul. We kind of try to, us musicians, we think outside of the box. We try to, so that way we can create. We try to get into that flow state. I think for people who are, on the fence or haven't had an experience, I think, the best way to kind of approach the subject is to, remove the box, remove the preconceived notion that you have in your mind kind of about the way that the world is. Because I feel like that kind of limits our sight in a lot of ways. Parsi brought up a really great point as well for people who aren't experiencers. Make sure you use your gut instinct when this is occurring, because there are experiencers who've experienced horrible things, with the phenomena as well. So there's a warning label that comes along with these experiences, which is, use your gut instinct. I personally, I don't participate in CE5. I never have. Not really familiar with any protocols of that nature. All I know is that when I started hosting a space for experiencers to tell their story, to kind of validate an individual's experience, because this community, right, of people who have seen these craft, experienced, whatever it is, have been kind of tossed into the crazy bin of society. I think that a lot of healing needs to be done on a global scale, and I think for whatever reason, when that's occurring, it allows experiencers or just human beings in general to remove that box, and then they show up for some reason. And I think that's it. I hope that answers your question, Patrick, kind of in a roundabout way. Maybe to remove your preconceived notions of what the world should be, and kind of try to get back to that childlike state of wonderment and amazement, because I feel like that's where the phenomenon truly exists for a lot of us. Thanks.
Yeah, no, that's it kind of answers it, but I gotta admit, it kind of doesn't. Okay, and I'll tell you why. Because I get what you're saying, and that makes sense. But that to me only applies to, and this is just me personally, right? That's it. I'm not speaking for anybody else. But like that to me only applies to just being open to the idea of it, which I am, right? Like, so I could remove the stigma to be open to the idea. But then for me to be like, this is real and this is happening, that's where I'm at. Like, what do we do? Do you think it's safe for people to just be like, well, that guy seems credible and he's saying it's real, so therefore I'm going to believe it's real now? Does that make sense what I'm getting at? Like, or do you think people should wait for the experience and then they receive that real disclosure? Because one thing is to think something is real, and another thing is to absolutely know it's real. And it is a big difference. I can look up videos of, wherever, Norway, all day long, and photographs and hear stories from people and everything about it. But until I get there, it's way different. And that's how I feel about this. So I don't know. I guess it's kind of one of those things of this personal disclosure. I want that too. So like, but what if I don't get these experiences, right? Like I kind of feel like Paul a little bit, like it hasn't happened. And I guess maybe just out of nowhere, I guess just we wait for it. I don't know. I don't know. It's fascinating. It is fascinating to think about.